Before we dive into this episode, we wanted to take the opportunity to say a heartfelt thank you for being here. Whether you've been with us from the very beginning when we started this podcast in 2019 or you're new, welcome.
We hope you enjoy what you hear, and if you do, please download it, share it with friends, and leave a review. It really helps us get better guests and share the midlife love. This week on the Midlife Mentors, we're diving into one of the most talked about and misunderstood areas in health right now, peptides and longevity. We're joined by Dr. Enayat, a GP and founder of Human Longevity Clinics, who's working at the cutting edge of personalised preventative medicine.
You've probably seen peptides all over social media, touted as the new shortcut to fat loss, muscle gain, and turning back the clock. But here's the truth. This isn't biohacking for beginners. Dr. E breaks down what peptides actually are, where they can help, and most importantly, where they can go seriously wrong.
We get into the risks, the hype, the need for proper testing and medical supervision, and why, if your foundations aren't in place, you're wasting your time.
So if you've been curious about peptides, biohacking, or the future of longevity, this is the episode you need to hear.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors with me, James.
It's me, Claire. How are you all? I
We
just imagine
are
what we've been up
back
to.
in the sunny UK, about to head into the long weekend.
Yes. Yeah, I feel a bit bamboozled today. It's been a busy one. I feel like the last, few days, been meeting after meeting. I think we're just we're back in London. We've been back just over a week. We got back a week yesterday. And so we've just been squeezing in some sociable things, but maybe just meetings, really.
It landed with a bit of a skid, didn't we? Because we got back, that epic drive back, and then I was straight down to the Happy Mondays.
Oh, you went to the Happy Mondays and stayed out, thank goodness.
Yes, I stayed away.
Stayed away.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, I don't
And
want
then
you
it just
crashing in at midnight.
No, a super busy week. I'm just like up in the city yesterday, seeing people. It's been fantastic.
It has. It's nice to be back in London.
It is. But I am looking forward to the weekend.
Yes, long weekend. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest.
Yeah, we're thrilled. So this is something that we get asked about a lot. We're going to be talking peptides today and maybe overlap a little bit into kind of general longevity. So we are thrilled to be joined by Dr. Enayat. He's a GP of over 15 years. He's the founder of the Human Longevity Clinics, and he does loads of amazing stuff with his team all around longevity. Dr. E, welcome.
Hello.
Great to be on. How are you guys?
Yeah, really good, thanks.
We are.
Before we get going into peptides specifically, just want to give us like a little bit of a overview of kind of like you and how you got into the longevity space and the kind of things that you do.
So I'm a UK trained doctor. I became a doctor and pursued medicine to ultimately help people live better quality of lives. And when I got to becoming a GP, I realized that the toolkits that we have in traditional medicine are great, but they're limited. Drugs, surgery, referrals to specialists that look after your organs, but will only see you once they've deteriorated to a point. And so I continued my curiosity. I worked in a stem cell facility in 2007 in San Diego that opened my eyes to the regenerative capacity of the human body, how it has these mechanisms to self-regenerate. And I followed what became known as longevity science, from 2010 onwards, science producing all this data around the things that slow down as we get older. And that's why intermittent fasting, you remember, became so popular, because it stimulates something called autophagy, which slows down as we get older. Our cells being able to repair themselves is just one example. Then we learned that NAD depletes. We learned that we can't produce as many stem cells as we get older. And this contributes to the symptoms of aging that we notice in our midlife. Yeah, we first notice that in our midlife, and we all do, 40 onwards, we're talking about this. Our energy depletes, our mood depletes, our resilience goes down, we get colds and flus more easily, our skin shows signs of aging, our hair starts shedding. And then eventually in our 50s, we get diseases. 1 in 2 people get a lifelong disease at 50 in the UK, and they have that disease for life. And then that leads to, having been on the side of managing those with traditional medicine, 1 drug leads to 2 drugs, leads to 3 drugs, leads to 4 drugs, and 1 disease leads to 2. We're not good at not just preventing disease, we're not good at reversing disease. Okay, we're good at slowing disease progression down through medication. And so I followed that curiosity. I came across functional medicine in the US. I trained in that, which looks at how the systems function as a whole, how your digestive tract is related to your hormones, is related to your inflammation levels, and how your cells are really important. You know, we're made up of trillions of cells. There's more cells in each human body than there are stars and planets in the galaxy, and there's billions of them, right? So we are an amazing organism that if we know how to identify areas of dysfunction, we can fine-tune those areas and make them work better using simple things: high concentration oxygen and pressure, higher concentration of nutrients, not just your multivitamins that you buy over the counter like Centrum, but prescription formulations at high dose formulations that give your body and your cells enough support for them to start working optimally, to then produce the hormones and enzymes and the balance that you need to produce health and to then overcome those symptoms. So this has become my lifelong pursuit now, and I thoroughly enjoy it. We have a team of 30 of us. We serve patients from around the world that come in to see us, and we try and solve whatever health problem that they have, ones that they identify themselves and ones they may not even identify as a health problem. And if they've got a disease or if they don't have a disease and they just want to feel better and reverse those signs of being in the midlife, we currently probably the best place, I would say, in the world, confidently say that. You know, I do believe that we do things with such medical depth and rigor that we are getting such good results with our patients, and making them feel younger, getting them out of the midlife feeling into the peak of life feeling in our 20s and 30s. You remember that bouncing off the walls, not needing a lot of sleep, but you still feel great. Now, yes, no, we know sleep is really important, because we might cover that today. So through that process, we've learned how to utilize all of these emerging science and apply it from a person-to-person basis. And one of the latest trends is peptides. We'll talk about that. But there's a ton of other amazing things that we use to give people the results that they need, that they want. So it's brilliant. I love it.
I know at your clinic you offer like just an amazing range of treatments. I've got to say, like, for those of you listening, not on video, Dr. E, yeah, he walks the walk. He's joining us from a hyperbaric oxygen chamber to do this podcast.
It's not on apparently, but So tell us a little bit about peptides. Like, before we joined, actually, before we hit record, you were like, yeah, it's one of those things that people are talking about, that's become, quite...
It's trending at the moment.
It's trending, it's a hot topic. So tell us what it is for us that don't know.
What is a peptide?
What is a peptide?
A peptide is a molecular structure that describes a short chain of amino acids, less than 40 in length. Proteins is a molecular structure that describes larger than 40 chain of amino acids. Okay, so that's the definition. Now, they are naturally occurring within us, and they're signaling messengers. I describe them like a thermostat. They help control and regulate your temperature or of your hot water or your heating, and the same thing peptides do. So they're not the gas boiler that heats up the water, but they're the switch that can help regulate that. So they're quite different to hormones. which are the end, which is like the gas heater. And so because they're not the end hormone, they can help regulate your hormones a bit better. For example, so different types of peptides that act as more like building blocks, things like that support soft tissue repair, like BPC 157, TB 500. These are all names that people are becoming more and more familiar with because social media is there's a lot of hype on peptides at the moment, but they're not without risk. And so, I think they're not as safe as supplements. Supplements carry a lot less risk. They're naturally occurring nutrients that have come through that can be found in our food. And generally, we don't find food becomes toxic to us, and neither do supplements that I've found. After years of prescribing supplements, if they're high quality, you don't get toxicity with supplementation. And that's a myth, if they're high quality, generally speaking. Now, with peptides, you can get toxicity. Okay, you can leave your thermostat on for too long, and what happens? Your heating gets too hot. Okay, and it's a similar principle. With the peptide, you can through overdosing. That's one thing to be very concerned about. The other thing is the quality. We're in a point now where we don't know what we're injecting. We would have thought of that 5 years ago, right? 10 years ago in society, we were so scared of injecting things in the vast majority of the population, apart from the bodybuilding world, who, leave as a separate community for the time being. They're the ultimate experimenters. But guess what happens to bodybuilders? They die younger.
Yeah.
Heart failure. They get decompensated liver issues, etc., etc. So short-term aesthetic results and functional results can lead to long-term deterioration. And the same principle applies to peptides. Okay, so I want to start this conversation with the context of safety. Okay, as a doctor, I want my patients to be safe, and I want people to understand that there are risks associated with these peptides. There are benefits as well, which we can come to and talk about, but they need to be prescribed. They need to be dealt with the nuances of each of these. By upregulating this pathway, will it affect other pathways? Perfect example, ipamorelin or tesmorelin or CJC1295. These are growth hormone releasing hormone peptides. So they will increase your growth hormone, okay? Hard to measure that directly, but you can measure a marker called insulin growth factor 1, IGF-1. And I highly recommend you screen that alongside your complete hormones and your blood sugar response before starting any growth hormone peptides. Why? Because it will dysregulate your blood sugar. So if you're already borderline diabetic, it will push you into having diabetes. It will also, and that's one of the bigger risks associated. But if you exaggerate your growth hormone too much, you can start to have issues of putting down too much muscle. Not just in places that you want them, in places that you don't want to have too much muscle. You don't want to have a heart that's too big, right? Why? Because it will pump inefficiently. It will cause heart failure. So, and you don't want to be stimulating growth hormone in an environment where there could be cancer cells within the body. Okay? So again, there is a theoretical risk of upregulating growths or cancer growths with growth hormone releasing hormone peptides. So there's some peptides that are androgynous, that stimulate our hormones. Another one you might hear of is kisspeptin, that works upstream to stimulate our production of luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, or our sex hormone regulating hormones, which then stimulate our production of testosterone downstream or estrogen. Now, the application of that in a controlled setting could give someone some benefit, but the therapeutic window is quite small. So the types of people you apply that to is actually quite small. So what I'm seeing with peptides, and one of the reasons why I joined today to have this discussion, is to say that it it's been overused, it's been oversold or overhyped, and this will lead to deleterious effect in the population. I've already started to see patients coming into the clinic having side effects of not just, poor quality peptides, which could be, not having a known supply chain. We don't know what's inside those products, etc. But also of having too much dosing or being too, for example, they just treat it as a supplement. They've been on it for 6 months. It's not meant to be like that. You're not meant to leave your thermostat on forever. You're meant to use it in short cycles. Now, I trained in peptides. I'm certified in peptides from the US 2024. And me and a cohort of international doctors that are part of these bodies of medical bodies that can supervise patients doing peptide-based therapies, all sing off the same hymn sheet, which is approach with caution, look at the evidence base around them, be supported by a physician who has been trained in them if you're going to engage with this. Because obviously we are, and we should be held accountable, right? And a lot of the information that you get out around peptides and many health interventions are coming from people that are not held accountable. They're not regulated. They're not licensed. And as such, they are free to say what they want, make the claims that they want with little comeback, with little repercussion, with little fear of repercussion, apart from maybe they're being shadow banned on Instagram or TikTok.
So I'll ask about that because I think the frame that I've been asked about at the minute has kind of broadly fallen into two camps. One has kind of been around that longevity and things like mitochondrial repair and will I get my energy levels back? But the other one has been, interestingly, like a lot of guys. I think it's been a lot on the internet from bro science about it's men that were like, oh, I wouldn't do steroids, they're too scary. I don't know if I'm ready for TRT. Peptides seem like really safe, and like, oh, is it true that I can basically boost my testosterone with peptides? I can put on loads of muscle. And I always say,
so
like,
a lot of the
I
advice
honestly don't know the answer. Go and do your research.
Yeah, so a lot of the a lot of these kind of like health tech bros, that put out this advice are maybe initially coming from the science that's producing small studies that are showing that there is either in animal or human studies, there's some benefits there, and this is the mechanism of action, and this is the potential benefit. But those same people have not applied them to humans themselves, right? So they've not seen how the science translates into medicine, which is the person-to-person variation and how you need to treat those nuances. Before peptide, another example, I had a patient that came in with acute liver failure. He had a young guy. He was actually himself a doctor, and he took advice from some tech bros around Fedogia. I don't know if you remember Fedogia. It's a herb that you can use to boost your testosterone. Okay, and it was talked about by Huberman and on all of these podcasts, and then it turned from Huberman. It went into all of the tech science health bros shouting about it. But what they won't tell you about is the people that it can induce acute liver failure in, which is not a vast majority, but they won't even mention that there is a potential risk. And so, I always, having been in this industry now for some time, and as a physician that applies the science to patients, I take what Huberman says with a pinch of salt. I take what a lot of these science with a pinch of salt, and we then work out the parameters of how to look at the raw data and evidence and apply it safely with patient engagement, understanding the risks, the benefits, the monitoring that needs to be done and put in place, the supply chain that needs to show certificates of analysis and made for human use, etc. And that allows us to truly learn from this and see the benefits coming through for the patients. So peptides used in the right hands, guided, supervised, supported, monitored, screened beforehand for the risks, cancer risk, or looking at your full set of bloods, your hormones, your full blood count, your liver, your kidney function, these are some of the markers that you want to be looking at before even starting on peptides, and then serially monitoring. A cycle length is typically 6 weeks to 12 weeks. You need to be checking what the effect is afterwards and being supported through that journey. And then you get optimal, safe results for people.
Because this is I was just listening to you speak, and I'm just thinking, this is so reflective of the society that we live in now, isn't it? We've got all these influencers, and we've got access to all this information, and there's one person saying one thing, one person saying another, and the people that we tend to see in our line of work is they come and say, this is the thing, this is the thing, this is the thing. And we constantly say to them, it's not a one size fits all approach. And we're not even, from a medical background, but like even from the lifestyle and the supplementation stuff, it's like, it's a real challenge, actually, not just for the individual because they get really confused, but also for the professionals trying to say to them, yes, what worked for that influencer, you've got this influencer going, this changed my life, but that you're not that influencer, and
it could well have
exactly your body's completely unique.
Or the influencer could be lying. Remember the Liver King?
Yeah.
This is Liver King was this guy who was like a caveman type character, right? He wore like animal furs, and he claimed that he was huge and ripped just off eating entrails of animals and organs all the time. But then someone released his huge steroid dose. You probably know more about this, Dr. Steve. And he had to come out and admit that, he had been taking steroids at quite an aggressive level for quite some period of time, and that was what his physique was down to, not eating his powdered liver tablets.
Yeah, no shit. Didn't look like it either.
No shit, Sherlock, as they say, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is the challenge is overcome by looking at the data. And what is the data of that person in front of you. And that's why let your biology dictate your strategy. Let your biomarkers dictate your strategy. Whether you're in the menopause or you're perimenopause or andropause or midlife, or you want to address the symptoms, do some testing. Do some thorough deep testing. If you're not sure what to test, go to our website, look at the sample reports for our longevity baseline assessment, ask your doctors to do that, and find experts that are not just looking for crude organ dysfunction disease, but look for personalized medicine practitioners. That will give you the best and fastest way to the outcome that you're looking for. Yeah, being data driven is always going to give you the best results. That unravels what is going on for this person. Where are the dysfunctions? For me, it might be, okay, I've got leaky gut and I've got estrogen detox pathway issues, which means, and I've got some inflammation. For you, it might be you've got some significant cardiometabolic risk. You've got like protein A, you've got the ApoE gene, and that explains the familial, not just hypercholesterolemia, but familial cardiovascular disease that runs through your family, strokes and heart attacks that run through your family, etc. So, by going deeper, you can start to explain things and explain your health history, explain your family health history, and then create personal strategies to change your trajectory. And peptides come later. My advice is always peptides come later. You have to do the foundational things first. There's no point you adjusting the thermostat if you've got rust in your pipes and your boiler's like throwing out smoke instead of throwing out steam. Yeah, exactly, right? And this is the human body. Same thing. It's, there are foundational things that you're advising, you're working with people on: nutrition, sleep hygiene, stress modification, exercise routines, types and variations of exercise as we age. Those are the bread and butter things that you've got to start with and build that self-awareness of I'm going to change my nutrition How does that make me feel? How does that change my energy? How does that change my inflammation? How does that change my cognition? I'm gonna adjust my sleep. How does that get that feedback? Understand and learn, develop that intuition with your own sense of being and experiencing your health. Then you level up. Then you go into some testing, add some data points to that. Maybe wear a health wearable, looking at those additional metrics. Key ones I love, the heart rate variability. And now your health wearables will also give you a VO2 max. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Set yourself some training goals off that to maintain and increase your VO2 max. Heart rate variability, I love that marker because the modern days we're so stimulated. Our heart rate variability is directly affected. Our stress resilience is directly affected. Our energy producing capacity is affected. And then it affects our immune resilience. That causes cancer to be on the rise in our population in younger people. We all know people in our age group that have got cancer at a young age, that have developed heart disease and heart attacks at a young age, that have suddenly passed dead. And so, I think HRV is a very, very important marker. And look at your deep sleep. Are you regenerating? Are you getting into your deep sleep? That's when you regenerate. That's when you produce your healthiest immune response. That's when you reduce shoot out stem cells from your bone marrow that help you regenerate and produce growth factors that help your tissues regenerate, produce natural killer cells that help fight cancerous changes in your deep sleep. So the foundational things cannot be replaced by peptides, cannot be replaced by TRT, cannot be replaced by, quick fix solutions, right? It's not going to address the problem. And then you look at your data. Let's look at what important we call them foundational health systems there are. Efficient digestion, digesting your food efficiently and absorbing those nutrients. Leaky gut is a symptom of aging. We see it time and time again. Easily identifiable, easily treatable with a supplement nutrition plan for 4 to 6 weeks. Look at your baseline hormones, not just your screening. Look at your thyroid, your stress hormones, your adrenal hormones in combination with your sex hormones because they all communicate. If I throw in testosterone into the mix, you will have downstream effects of other hormones not being produced, right? Same with growth hormones, same with other hormones. There's this thing called negative feedback. So hormonal balance is very important. Looking at your immune state, immune system, inflammation is really, really important because that is manifesting not just in extreme cases in cancer, but in also other autoimmune conditions, polymyalgia, rheumatoid, MS, inflammatory bowel disease, eczema, psoriasis. These are symptoms of autoimmunity that are directly related to gut health. All of them have a gut health as part of it. Talks about micronutrients. Making sure you've got your key micronutrients in high doses of omega-3, which can contain your EPA, DHA, very anti-inflammatory, protect the brain, protect the heart. High dose vitamin D. I love vitamin D. Not what you want. Yeah, we love it. It's a steroid hormone. It's a precursor to producing your natural hormones, your sex hormones. Very important. And your healthy cholesterol is required for that as well to produce your steroid hormones. So it may not come in a syringe. It may just come from a good supplement regime. We talked about a probiotic. Cycle up your probiotics. Don't be on the same probiotic for life. Cycle it up. Be on a probiotic blend. I recommend that. And more recently, I've been kind of recommending creatine to a lot of my patients that are training and looking for energy and getting great results. There's some good evidence coming out about the role of creatine for cognitive function as well as for energy. And I think NAD plus is foundational. It's one of my favorite supplements. Now, based off the fact that it depletes. By the time we're in our midlife, 45, we've got less than 40 to 50% compared to when we had in our 20s. And that's one of the hallmarks of aging, NAD depletion. So NAD plus, as it depletes, it's an important substrate of energy production at a cellular level. And the number one thing that we complain of as we get older is our sense of vitality, which is required for energy. And that's why our requirement for sleep increases. we become more worried about nutrition. I mean, because we're aware that these have a link. We didn't need to worry about it in our 20s because we had this fantastic nuclear power plant of energy production with all the ingredients in at a cellular level. Yeah. So NAD plus, I really love. I became a big fan of it during long COVID, where we were applying it to patients with long COVID symptoms in combination with hyperbaric. Love it. I do recommend after 50, 60, consider repleting IV and then maintaining sublingually. We have a great NAD plus range at the clinic. It's a big approach that we use with great results. So all of this is before peptides.
Dr. Ian, it's fascinating.
I love
There's so
this.
much we cover. I was going to ask you, I'm going to shift. You're also an NHS GP, and like it just struck me. Do you think? Well, I guess we are at the moment structurally, right? We're kind of getting to a two class health system because this stuff. There's people that can afford this stuff and people that can't. So
Yeah.
that's kind of one point maybe addressed. But the other one is how far
Let's talk about that.
we are.
Let's talk about that first before, because
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
terrible at remembering multiple
Yeah, okay,
questions.
talk about that first.
I'm not
Yeah.
a politician. Politicians are really good at that, by the way.
Yeah.
I once I got invited to a dinner with I won't name who the politician was, and it was only like maybe 15, 20 of us, and we all got to ask a question. And he went round and he after he'd listened to all 15 questions, he then listed one by one the questions. I was like, I could never do that. I can't do that. So,
Most politicians just avoid the questions, actually.
yeah, no, he was quite good actually. To be fair,
Just
he
avoid them.
listed all 50. Oh, that's remarkable skill. But so to answer your question, while it's still in my brain, two-tier. We've always had a two-tier health system. There's always been a private market, yes, but I agree with you. It's been a lot smaller. I think there's a realization, and the split has come now based on what we're defining as health. The NHS clearly defines health as the treatment of disease. Okay. Anything that doesn't fit into those old diagnostic criteria of disease, i.e., liver disease, heart disease, and is based around organs, lung disease. Unfortunately, if your symptoms don't fit into those criteria or your tests don't prove that you have one of those diseases, we don't have the solution within the NHS. We're not trained to have the solution. We're not trained to have the tools. Okay. So, and we're not training right now the doctors that are coming out in 5 to 10 years' time, still not having nutrition and supplementation and functional medicine and digestive health, menopause from a different perspective. At a medical student, we're still not doing that from a medical student level. So because of that, we're not going to see the NHS adopt this unless, and there is a plan in place by clinics like ours, we produce a body of evidence that shows that this personalized precision approach to health produces better outcomes for these conditions, or said conditions, that is more cost effective. And then we will find the form of insurance being tax, right? That's a form of insurance, or health insurance funding this, right? Not just from anecdotal studies. So we're actually attached to Queen Mary's University, the William Harvey Institute, where we're producing in real time our outcome data, looking back and saying how many patients have pre-diabetes, they use a precision medicine, what was the outcome, what was the improvement in quality of life that they reported. Our most recent audits are showing a 42% improvement in people's health across all of their symptoms of health within 8 weeks by using a personalized medicine approach, prescribing supplements, nutrition, lifestyle strategies, and working within that way. So I think that's what the future will hold. And once the evidence is there in a language that the stakeholders can't argue with, then it will be adopted into the health system. We will be educating the future healthcare providers how to deliver this, and it will come. It will come, but it requires responsible practices to produce their outcome data, which requires investment and time and effort to do that. So we're hoping to be we are one of those practices, and we want to continue to be in one of those practices that produces that outcome to better primary care. Now, I'm a GP. I'm no more intelligent than any other GP out there, but what I've just learned over time is extra tools. My toolkit is bigger, and I've just learned how to use not the crosshead screwdriver in the flat screw, right?
Yeah.
I've learned to use the right screwdriver in the right screw. And for example, and because I've got a wider set of tools, from diagnostic testing, deeper testing, from epigenetics to comprehensive hormones to comprehensive stool analysis that looks at over 150 biomarkers, including your microbiome and your digestive enzyme production, toxins, viruses, all of that. We're trained further in all of that. Those are tools that we've gathered. And then now we understand how to apply those tools. So yeah, watch this space. We're launching an academy to support development of other health professionals in understanding the role of this type of medicine. Hopefully in 2026, but definitely in 2027, because we understand that there are doctors that want to learn how to do this stuff, and health practitioners that do, and there's patients and consumers that want to go to experts, but they just can't find the experts because there's not enough experts out there. That's it. And I think the wellness industry has for a long time treated it as a two-tier. They haven't treated it as a medical health solution. And because they haven't, we haven't seen it adopted into mainstream healthcare. So wellness has always been it's been around for a long time, going to wellness resorts and, you spend 20 grand in a week and, you lose a bit of weight and you feel a bit brighter and then you slowly come back to reality, not slowly, quickly come back to reality. So those places have put profits over patients, right? But responsible practices like ours that are led by technical expert doctors, not by driven by profits, but driven by outcomes, delivering patients outcomes and getting better and better at that, is where we're going to see the future coming closer, the future of primary care. Now, imagine going to your GP practice and they've got nutritionists in their team and they've got a hyperbaric chamber that they can use to treat people that have had a heart attack to get their heart function better, can use this after a stroke or to prevent a stroke. This is what I see as the future. GP practices and you haven't been to the Human Clinic at our flagship in Chelsea yet, but you come in, a lot of people say it's like stepping into the future. Yeah. And we will love that because we want you to step into the future of you. But then we also want to inspire that this is the future of primary care and it can be. We're doing it, so why can't it be? So I hope that addresses your question.
It does. Thank you. That was a full answer, and it answered my second point. Like how do we start influencing policy to shift the model from prevention to treatment? But you kind of addressed that there. Dr. E, thank you. This has been fascinating. I mean, we could talk about.
We're going to get you. I can imagine we're going to get you back talking about other things.
If people want to know more about you, about Human, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, so we have a YouTube channel. So they can go into our YouTube channel. There's a few videos. They can learn educational videos about the different types of treatments that we do. And that's at Human, HUM, the number 2N. We also have that same handle on Instagram. I have a LinkedIn page, Dr. Mohammed Enayat. I have a Instagram page at bydr.e. And just engage with us. And you know what? You can book yourself in for a free discovery consultation with one of my health team.
Amazing.
30 minutes, 45 minutes where we discover you and you discover us. And we kind of put that in the context of you, most importantly, how this could potentially be helping you. And I would love to offer the Midlife Mentor community a discount. So I don't like using the word discount, but actually what we're going to do is give a treatment credit towards a treatment plan that they join with us. Okay, so they'll get £250 towards any treatment journey that they decide, and that could be, for an IV-based therapy in the clinic to try a super nutrient NAD infusion or hyperbaric chamber. It could be towards a testing-based approach with testing starting at $495. So we want people to experience. We want your community to experience this.
Thank you so much.
That we weren't expecting that. So if you're watching a bit of the video here, we're really surprised. That's such an amazing, amazing offer. Thank you. That's incredible.
I tell you why, because it's in the midlife that we start to experience the deterioration in health. And actually, it's in the midlife that we have got so much to give. We've experienced, we've accumulated so much experiences that we're more mature, right? And so if all we're missing is that extra vitality, if we get that back, we can do so much more for society, for ourselves, for our families, as you guys are doing. The work that you guys are doing is so important, because we're not just accepting the deterioration of life in this midlife. We're taking the power into our own hands, and with that, we're saying, okay, we're going to do more. We're going to do more. We're going to be better parents. We're going to be better uncles, aunties, bosses, employees, neighbors, friends. And I think we've learned that from the earlier years in our midlife. We have that maturity.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Love that perspective. And what we'll do is we'll put all the links in the show notes to anyone that's listening. All of this, it will be in the show notes, and how to get that really, really incredible credit as well for the clinic that'll be in the show notes as well. And thank you again for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing all that knowledge.
Fascinating.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anytime you want some more advice, or we want to have another chat on another topic, I'll be back on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors. Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset Audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.